So back when I was in high school, I watched old reruns of Star Trek. The old Captain Kirk run of Star Trek. And I always enjoyed the campiness of that run of Star Trek. And when I heard that there was a new Star Trek that was going to come out, I was excited. Genuinely, I was excited. And then it came out, and I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting. I kind of like that. But it started to that initial thrill started to wear off rather quickly. Because, and this is not disparaging of the efforts to these individuals who made this production. A lot of the thing about the original Star Trek was the campiness that I enjoyed. You got the idea it was a spaceship. Yeah, it was a really crappy set. They were working with a very low budget. But they did well with what they had. There was at least a successful pretense that what it was a spaceship that they were on. And this is back in the day when you had Alien and Aliens. A lot of gritty B movies. And then here you come across this TV show with a spaceship that has couches and carpet. You know, I remember seeing the original Star Wars. I'm not the biggest fan of Star Wars. Even when I was a little kid, I grew increasingly annoyed by the fact that it appeared that Star Wars was a money grab for toys. And yeah, I grew up a brokey, so my parents couldn't afford the toys even if I wanted them. But still, it didn't distract from the point that it looked more like a cash grab for selling toys. And it appears these days that it's quite the same. Anyway, so I get off of my initial enthusiasm for the next generation because the only thing that I could ever see was a bureaucrat's office in space. Clean and tidy, sound-controlled surfaces, soft touch surfaces, comfortable, consoling, and certainly not a spaceship. For all the money they spent on special effects. And granted, I understand it was this bloated utopian idea to idealize space travel, but I thought it was ridiculous. Couches in space. So I opted to come up with something of my own. I had several ideas, but few opportunities and a little time, even as a kid. But that's what this is here. This is a revitalization of that idea of creating an anti-Star Trek that's not Star Wars. And it was inspired by a manga artist I I'm not going to butcher the name, Yokonobu Hoshino. Who did an anthology series of sci-fi, hard sci-fi, called 2001 Nights. And it was that. It wasn't Superman or Spider-Man or X-Men that genuinely inspired my love for comics. It was that. The beautifully rich, detailed illustrations, the dynamic stories. You weren't being pandered to with stupid monsters, superpowers, or a stupid Hilton hotel in space. And that's what this is about. Maybe not quite so much hard sci-fi, maybe a little bit more fantasy, but it captures the spirit of what I wanted to capture when I came up with the idea a long time ago.